Good afternoon. I need the mic. Yeah. Good afternoon. First, I'm looking out in the audience and I see some of our alumni, and we want to welcome them. And it's so good to see them. First, we have Hannah and Megan Montgomery in the back of the room. And also Sarah's older brother, Caleb Dubinsky, right over there. Let's see, Caleb is at RIT. Megan is at NYU. And Hannah is at Baldwin Wallace. So how's that for some representation, some alumni? I know? Yeah, that's nice. Very good to see you. I was a little worried I didn't hear from you over the holidays, but I figured you were traveling the world somewhere. Yeah, okay. Happy New Year to everybody. Everybody have a good time at the holiday party? The holiday celebration? Cool, huh? Yeah, good. We're going to get into TOPUCU in 2 seconds. And I hope you appreciate the note that went out as far as the homework was concerned. Mr. Tranger and Mrs. Bruner came and said, you know, you guys got a lot going on, and could we kind of relieve some of that for the homework? And so what we've done is we've added an extra session on TOPUCU in the first half. We're going to allow this session to be work in progress, and you're going to complete the work here. That's how important we think this is for you. And it just shows the commitment on our part and Mr. Bruner and Mrs. Bruner's part that we'll do anything and whatever we got to do to get you the proper training. So please, all of your attention and give this focus, because this is very important for you. I do need to ask Mr. Tranger, we're going to take a list right now. Just seniors graduating this year who does not have a completed profile done and in to me. A completed profile. Who does not have one as a senior? Come on, way up. Way up. This is the time. That's it? Every other senior? Paige, you're the only one?
All the seniors in the front have one done? Paige does? I don't know.
You don't know?
I think I do, but...
Profile, your resume. So then you don't have one if you don't know. Okay. Aisha does not have one. Keisha. Anybody else? Okay, juniors. Who does not have one as a junior? Raise your hand.
Keep your hand up so I can get to the
Keep your hand up, please. This is important. Keep them up. Keep them up. Okay, we will be working on this over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Keep them up. Got it?
Okay, good. On this one, I need this.
Up.
All three of you.
That row.
Okay, got it.
Okay, great. We will be doing interviews with the juniors and seniors, Mr. Tranger and myself, starting in February and March. We need your profiles done, and we'll be investigating possible job opportunities this coming summer, okay? So this all needs to fall in place. Real quick, We've only canceled one camp seminar in 5 years because of weather. If there's a problem with weather and you're wondering if we have a seminar, you need to go on the website, we'll post it on there, and you also need to check your email. Those are the only two places that we will post if there's a cancellation, okay? All right, with that, I'm going to turn this over to our friends from TOPUCU, and please, your undivided attention, and let's get through. I've already cut into some of the time, and I know you're advanced, so you're going to knock this off, your homework and your assignment in short order. Noah, it's all yours.
Thank you, sir. You want me to use this, or Dave? Okay.
It'll help to pick up.
Will it pick it up?
I need you to use it.
Use it?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes the one-arm speaker, which is going to be interesting. But we'll do fine. All right. So who got into your TOPUCU book? All right. So lesson number 1, you had one takeaway. I asked you to memorize one word and know what you're going to do with that one word in order to transform your life. What is the word you had to memorize for lesson 1? All 6 or 7 pages, I asked you to memorize one word in lesson 1. You want to pass those out, Jerry, while we're doing this? Routine. All right. So here's the deal. Was there anybody here today that wasn't here 2 months ago when I first went through all this stuff? All right, so let's do a quick recap, like very quickly, quick recap. Okay, I graduated from high school in 1967. I was number 235 out of 238 in my high school class. My family was not horrendously poor, but we were pretty much poor, and et cetera, et cetera. When you do that good in high school and you don't go to college, which I did not in 1967, which I'm very happy that you guys are working, getting to that point, going to early college, you can come out of here with your associate degrees and prepare yourselves to go become who you want to become. I was not in that situation, so I went straight to Vietnam. I came back, I was a garbage collector, I was a firefighter paramedic, and the principles you're going to learn in TOPUCU, I learned by reading literally. I'm saving you guys so much time, literally, because I read dozens of books, scores of books, you know, maybe 100 books to figure out how this game of life is played. And whether you like it or not, you can cash out, but whether you like it or not, you're going to play the game of life. Now, you can win it or lose it, but there are certain principles that you have to learn if you're going to win it. So, 235 in high school, garbage collector, etc. When I learned the principles and started applying the principles, I found out that there were certain tools that you could use to help you become what you wanted to become. And as I started applying those tools and the techniques and principles you're going to learn in TOPUCU, then I found out that there were these actual secrets that champions knew that I was never taught or trained. I was never mentored. My dad was I'm going to call him a flaming alcoholic, and it was always better if he wasn't around. And some of you may know what I'm talking about, if you even have one around. So as I started learning how this game is played, I realized that most people in life say winners win, losers lose. Winners win because they do all the things losers don't do. And that's technically kind of true. But the problem in the game of life is, if you weren't taught how the game is played, how can you become a winner? So through early college, you're learning that. Through camp, you're learning that. I learned it by reading a bunch of books in the mid-70s when I was a firefighter paramedic in a suburb outside of Cleveland. As I applied the principles, I learned that there were these tools, there were these secrets that champions knew. I started applying them to my life, and this is not braggadocious stuff, but the Rolex is real. I've developed a company that became a financial wealth company that now has 91 offices, and I have 1,400 employees today. My company manages $1.5 billion of assets, not billion. So my point is you're going to learn about TOPUCU. You're going to learn those things that I learned in the mid-70s. Now the good news for you is you're already off to a jump start from where I was. You're a lot younger, for starters. You're already figuring out that you want to do the things that most people don't do to become who you want to become. So you're already way ahead, which is very, very cool. TOPUCU is going to teach you how to control this. If you want to transform and become the person you want to become, there's 3 parts to that formula. Almost everybody practices parts 2 and 3. Very few practice part number 1. So part 2 is, I get emotionally charged up to go do something. Today's the 7th, so a week ago, we had a thing called New Year's Eve. And on the 1st, week ago, last Monday, a lot of people came out with a New Year's resolution. 86% of those are dead within 2 months. 86% within 2 months are gone. Then you've got a whole nother crop of those that are gone by the end of the year. They say the number is somewhere around 2 to 2.5% actually keep their New Year's resolution for a year. And the reason why is because if you're going to transform and become who you want to become, if you're going to learn these principles that champions use to become champions, and whatever it is, whatever area of life, then you've got to understand that an emotional charge that takes place here is important. But feelings is step number 2 of the 3 steps of transformation. Yes, you have to get emotional, passionate about stuff. And then number 3, you've got to go do something. But number 1, if you don't change the way you think, you will never long-term change the way who you are going to become. Transformation always starts here. He or she who can learn to control this thing will make this thing do what it doesn't want to do to become what it wants to become. Make sense? So that's what TOPUCU is all about. And I'm going to help you with your first question. You know, what is TOPUCU? TOPUCU is the only person you cheat as you. If you read the book, you understand that. Now, I won't go through the whole story of how I got TOPUCU back in 2013, but it was basically the culmination of all these principles I learned a long time ago. They're basically 5 tools that if you can lock in your brain and put in your mental tool chest, they can help you think different. And if you think different, you by default will then feel and act different. Does it make sense? So I remember my dad came to me one day, I was a little kid, probably 4 or 5 years old, and he goes, I remember this vividly, he goes, go in the kitchen and get me a butter knife. So I went and got him a butter knife. What did he do with the butter knife? He unscrewed a wall covering for an outlet. So I grew up, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old thinking that, basically you undo screws with a butter knife. There's a better tool than a butter knife. What's it called? A screwdriver, right? So these are tools. Now, if I have tools and I don't ever take a tool out of the toolbox, is the tool really worth anything? So in order for you to transform and use TOPUCU to your best, you need to literally memorize all these little simple principles we're going to give you for them today, for the 7 you're going to get today. And if you do memorize those, and then you use those, you by default will transform your thinking. Make sense? So, it's basically, we might have done this before last time, we'll do it again real quick today. I like doing this little one for those of you that weren't here the last time, you'll all get a chance to do this today. There are universal principles that work. Would you agree? If I do this, that's called gravity, right? So how many times am I going to do this until it hovers in the air? When's it going to hover? Never. If it hovers, we have a problem, right? So let's do this. Everybody pick a number in your mind. Don't tell me what it is. In your mind, pick a number between 1 and 10. 1 and 9. Did 1 and 9. Did we do this last time I was here?
Yes.
Did we? Okay, so it'll be easier this time, right? Because you already did it once. Number between 1 and 9. Pick your number, multiply it times 3. Add 3 to that number. Whatever number you have now, multiply it times 3. All the 2-digit number, don't you? I want you to add the first digit to the second digit. And if you did the math properly, your number is 999999999. Because there's a certain universal mathematical principle if you do the math. Everybody had 9, right? Please tell me you had 9. So if you do the math right, it always comes out 9. It doesn't matter if it's 3. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 3 is 12, times 3 is 36, 3 plus 6 is 9. It doesn't matter if it's 7 times 3 is 21, plus 3 is 24, times 3 is 72, plus 7 plus 2 is 9. It doesn't matter how you do it, it always comes out to 9. TOPUCU is based on universal principles. So lesson number 1 was important because you learned what a habit is. Now, because we have a few that weren't here, is everybody up to speed? And for those of you that weren't here, did you get the book since then? Have you read lesson number 1? So if I asked you, and that's in your notes there I think, what are the 3 components to a habit? There's 3 components to a habit. You gave me the middle one already. Routine. Trigger. So trigger or craving.
Reward.
Ends in a
Reward.
reward or satisfaction. So, we're going to learn a pretty important thing right now. I'm going to put a top on a water bottle, I think. Here's what we're going to learn. There's a big, big difference between knowledge and skill. If I said to you, what does it take to get in shape? What would you tell me? There's 2 components to get in shape.
Diet and exercise.
Diet and exercise. Everybody agrees, right? If I asked 7 billion people, what does it take to get in shape? What would 7 billion people tell me? Diet and exercise. It's not magic. That's understanding. Learning to do the skill part is what's going to be challenging. So, lesson number 1 taught you that if you have a trigger or a craving that desires a reward or satisfaction, and you bridge it with the word routine, and like I told you before, I think, and I told you in the book in 1994, at 45 years old, when I retired a multi-millionaire, not bragging, but it is what it is. When I did that, I had a whole new nighttime routine. My nighttime routine, if you read the book, was to do what? Eat ice cream. Now, who's with me? I'm actually going straight from here to Mitchell's. I use my grandkids as an excuse, but I work out a lot to make sure I can work it off. But, I mean, ice cream is like my addiction. I am an ice creamaholic. So all I had to do when I put that 30 pounds on when I retired at 45 and 94, was change my routine. Now, learning to control and change the routine sounds easy, but it's not easy, right? If it was easy, everybody would do it. So how come so few people actually embark on a New Year's resolution, or a habit change, or smoking cessation, or diet, or education? They're used to it, they're comfortable, exactly. And unless you do what you don't want to do to become what you want to become, you will never transform. Now again, I'm kind of speaking to the choir because you guys are already here sacrificing a Sunday afternoon, so I already get that. You're already a step ahead of the rest of your peers. But if you understand that, again, the habits are stored in your... See if anybody did really good in reading the book. I never knew this until I actually did studied it. Your habits are stored in your basal ganglia. You don't need to know that, but just be aware that there actually is a place in your brain where your habits are stored. And your basal ganglia is about the size of an acorn at the base of your brain. And the more often you do something, the more it becomes a habit. And all habit change is uncomfortable when you're learning to do something different, right? We did the example last time, I think, about it. I asked you if you drove like an hour away somewhere where you've never been before. Remember we talked about that? And how uncomfortable that is when you're driving there, but when you get home you say, I got home so much quicker. But you didn't get home quicker unless you were speeding. You got home quicker because that route was stored in your brain, and therefore it was less uncomfortable driving home, even though it was monstrously uncomfortable driving there. Now, who's with NYU? One of you two back there with NYU? Okay, so I was in Queens about a month and a half ago. We're doing the Department of Youth and Community Development. Right now they have about 603,000 kids doing after-school programs through DYCS. And we're actually started in the Bronx. We're getting ready to do a program in Queens, moving down to, I think it's somewhere in Manhattan. They told me we're actually going to be with Commissioner Trump pretty soon. about doing a lot of those kids, to learn these principles. When I got to New York City, and I've been there a zillion times, literally. My wife and I love going to the city. We like going to a play. We stay at the Marriott Marquis right there. That's just a confirmation how much I like New York City. The bells go off. But when I go there, I fly in. I take a car. We get to the Marquis, and then we walk everywhere. This time I drove to Queens. You can only imagine what it was like getting from there to Queens. So anyhow, it was very uncomfortable. It was less uncomfortable going back. My point very simply is, if you learn to control the routine, you can transform. Make sense? So everybody's with me. So lesson number 1. Everybody got all your stuff filled out? Lesson number 1?
Does everybody have the quiz sheet? Does
Everybody got one of these quiz sheets?
Anybody need it?
All right, so good. So everybody's got, the only person who cheated is you. Everybody's got routine. Everybody has to become who you want to become, right? Everybody good on lesson 1? Any questions on lesson 1? Has anybody done, so the homework was to memorize the word routine, and the second part of the homework was to do what? To pick a 30-day, easily obtainable routine change. Did anybody start yours yet? So here's what I would do. I would suggest that as of today, when we're done here, pick something that you can do that is easy. I've had people literally say, I'm going to read a chapter of a book a week. I've had people say, I'm going to start walking. I'll walk a quarter mile, I'll walk, I'll do 2 push-ups and 2 sit-ups. I call it cinch by the inch, hard by the yard. You do a little bit, you do more and more and more, and next thing you know, you'll be doing a 1,000 burpee challenge in 1 week. Everybody's done that, right? 1,000 burpees in 1 week? Nobody else has done that? It's not fun, but anyhow. So pick something easily obtainable that you can do just to prove to yourself that you are going to transform in one specific area. Make sense? Are you with me? Lesson number 2 is an important lesson. Lesson number 2 is, let me ask you this. Does anybody know the 3 components? What were the 2 takeaways from lesson number 2? You had to memorize 1 word and 3 parts to a formula. Sorry?
The hard work.
That's one of the 3 parts of the formula.
Reward.
Reward, yep. Payoff, reward,
Odds
yep.
of success.
Odds of success, and hard work over here. So there's the 3 components of the scales, right? What was the 1 word you had to memorize? Internal motivation. What will separate you from the pack, folks, is this. If you can understand that all of us human beings, I think all human beings love a pat in the back. It's nice to get a pat in the back. But if you live your life to be externally motivated, somewhere down the road you will be let down. I mean, it's like, somebody, it's always easy to talk about, a weight challenge. So I lose some weight. People go, wow, good job, you're losing weight, nicely done. If I become anorexic, it's no longer, wow, keep going, you're almost down to 60 pounds. Get to 50, get to 40, get to 30. I mean, there's a point where they're going to stop praising you for doing something. When you finally get there, all that external motivation is going to leave. The only motivation that you can really rely on is internal motivation. It's what are you doing when nobody's watching? What are you doing when nobody's paying any attention? Are you doing the routine change? Are you doing the things you don't want to do to become who you want to become? That's what will separate you. So what's the tool that you use to stay internally motivated? The scales. Now, here's an interesting thing. I actually just got an email I showed Jerry from state of Louisiana, they're actually doing a study on the program. And we just have been qualified, I just found out, to do a study that's going to be so unique. It's the RAND, what was that RAND thing you talked about again? Do you remember? Yeah, the RAND Corporation, blah, 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 blah. Anyhow, there's only 6 out of 150 have ever done it before, and we're going to be one of those. So anyhow, because there's an interesting thing that I need for all of you to understand. When we first started doing this, with all, I think it's 46 or 47 pages that make up the 7 lessons, and I went out and started showing it to my friends, they would say, oh, it's got to be 200 pages. It's got to be 200 or 250 pages. It can't be a book without 200 or 250 pages. I said, look, I put in the book, in the back of the book I put in, I'm cutting through the minutia and through the blankety blank in order just to get to the point. Because you don't need to have all the rest of that stuff if you understand what the tools are. There's a toolbox, like I said earlier. If you understand conceptually the scales, that's important. But if you don't do anything with them, they will not change your life. So we talked about the 3 parts of the scales. We talked about hard work. We talked about reward, or we said reward. We talked about, the odds. But if you don't memorize it and actually use that tool inside your brain, so I guess let me ask you this, how come you're all here this afternoon? You could have said it's cold outside. I'm scared to be out in the cold. You could have come up and tell me, you could have, I did a lot of that back in high school. I don't think you feel good today, but first stay home. Except our parents are never around. I missed literally 29 days my senior year. Don't do that. If I did, it was 30 and you can't graduate. That's why I missed 29. So if you understand it but don't use it, the tool is of 0 value. Every so often I'll drop a little life lesson on you like I do my grandkids. Here's the deal. It's easy. I'm almost 3 weeks from 69. It's easy. When you reflect back, I can tell you this. Your life at your young age, when you get into your 20s and 30s and 40s, and trust me, it will happen. You will look back. You should look back today, actually. And your life is basically today the sum total of every decision you've made, good or bad. Right or wrong. Right or wrong. You made good decisions, or you made bad decisions. Every decision has a reward or a consequence. We happen to do this program, as Tom and Jerry know, in a lot of correctional facilities, a lot of them now. We're seeing transformation all over the country because they were never taught the principles how to control this thing. They made decisions that ended up there, right? Now they're making decisions to actually go through Ashland University and come out with an associate degree. A lot of them are. Not a lot of them, but the ones who we're helping are. Every decision that you make has a consequence, good or bad. TOPUCU are tools that help you make good decisions. You're here today because somewhere in your mind, you went through the formula. You said, is this hard work of coming this afternoon going to be worth this reward I want to get down here? And you knew by default that by doing the hard work of coming this afternoon, that would give you a better odds of getting that result. Does that make sense? Now, whether you made a conceptual understanding of that, or you just did it because you know you want to excel and become who you want to become, I'm telling you that every time you think about doing something or not doing something, you need to analyze, what's the hard work I'm doing? How's that going to increase my odds? And if it increases my odds, I have a better chance of becoming more successful. Make sense? And that's why I call it scales. Because you can always tip the scales in your favor by doing more. Hard work. Don't be bashful, folks. By doing more hard work. The harder you work, the luckier you get. The luck is that your preparation meets opportunity. Look at your paper for that one. Luck is determined when preparation meets opportunity. It's not that you got lucky. I run into people that I knew from back in the day all the time. How the crap did you build a company that big? How did you come up with this TOPUCU thing? Because I outworked you. That's how I did it. And the harder I worked, the luckier I got. You think I got lucky? All I did was increase my odds. And then therefore this payoff took place over here. But every time you're thinking about, and I'm just going to use me for a second, I'm going to the gym or not going to the gym. I'm going to come out to early college and make an excuse not come and tell one of my people. Every decision I make, I'm going through the odds all the time, just trying to make sure I make good decisions. I'm always weighing what happens if I do this, what happens if I do that. Make sense? You got to be prepared to win. These tools will prepare you to win. Fair enough? So it's like the two guys who were out camping one night, and they're in the tent. And all of a sudden the guy hears rustling outside. And he opens the tent, and, the little flap of the tent, opens it up, and there's a grizzly bear out there. And he comes back in the tent, he goes, "We got trouble, there's a grizzly bear out there." And the guy starts putting his tennis shoes on. And he goes, "What in the world are you doing? You can't outrun a grizzly bear." And he goes, "I don't have to outrun the grizzly bear. All I got to outrun you." Preparation will always separate you from the fly. If you're prepared to win because you've outworked somebody else that increased your odds, that put you on a path to reward or achievement or success or believing that it can happen, but if you don't use the scales, if you don't actually memorize them and think about them, and you can do it any way you want to. Look, there are some demonstrably successful people here. Somewhere in the course of their life, they figured these things out on their own. I'm just giving you quick tools, that's all. I'm just giving you a little formula so you can know whether you're motivated or not motivated and why you're going to do something or not do something. Make sense? So, the scales are, in this hand I have hard work. In this hand I have odds of success and payoff. Everybody with me? You sure? We can stop if you want. Sure? All right, let's see what's happening at one of the schools that we're working in right now.
Character that's going to be here forever. So that's really important for us. Your character is going to be more important and will last you way longer than football. We started the TOPUCU program last year, which really, gave our character program a little boost and change.
The more work you put in, on the other side of the scale is your dreams, and it will come true.
Making me grind harder and making me be a better person.
The whole TOPUCU just kind of brought everything kind of full circle. Just kind of gave them something to kind of really see and touch. To be able to hear it is one thing. To be able to hear it and then see it and touch it, now I think we hit all learning aspects of that. The kids really enjoy it.
Hard work, perseverance, and not listening to the dollars.
The harder you work, better your outcome will be. And that really hit me a lot because I work hard all the time.
They understand what it's doing. They say to other teams in our school, you guys need the TOPUCU program.
It's basically an answer sheet because when you put all the words together and put it through life, then you'll be straight.
I've seen the thing that I have in my program, my name is King Luke. I've seen what he has went through, his own inner struggles. I've seen him buy into it and really turn himself around this year. So as a head, you can look at this kid's grades, you can look at his attitude, you can look at his conduct, you can look at the way he talks to his mother.
TOPUCU, it helps you so you can be motivated in life, so you can accomplish what it is you want to accomplish.
That is a living, breathing thing right there. I see it in his mother sees it. It's something that they as a family have now adopted. Her other two sons are working with the book too, so it's huge. Now I suggest any high school, college program that is really looking to add something different to it and bring someone else in to really look into the TOPUCU program, the understanding that the kids can get from just a short, you know, it's not a 25-minute read. Knowing our kids' attention spans is not long. I can 5 minutes and I got a full day of fulfillment.
I really wish it would have hit me sooner, but I'm blessed to get it. When I did get it,
Of course, as a coach, I buy into it because I believe it works.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do some homework. The back of your book, depending which version of the book you have. I think we talked about last time, when I wrote the book, I finished the 7 lessons on page like 46 or 47. And then I went into, so, let's see what we got. So you have to go to like page, in the very front, go to page 46, then flip over one page. So the very front, go to page 46, and then flip over one page. When I shared the books with my friends, and they said, well, you know, books typically, the page numbers just run consistently now. And I was like, they do? That's amazing. I thought I would just do the 7 lessons and start back at page 1 for the finisher program. So the new books actually have running pages. So everybody's there. Yeah. Everybody on page 1 of finisher program. Nobody is? Good. All right, so what we're going to talk about now are our mission statements and goals. And we're going to have you do the first few components here just to see if there's any questions and you kind of get a good idea of how to go through that. So as you're learning the tools of actually how to change the way you think, to change the way you feel, to change the way you act, then you need to start declaring some of this stuff in writing. Way back when somebody said to me, you know, in order to become successful, you need to have a mission statement. It's a declaration of who you want to be in the 6 major areas of life. And you need to have goals, which are the action steps that you'll take in those 6 areas. So I said, okay, that sounds good. He said, now write them down and bring them back. I had no idea how to write a mission statement. I had no idea how to write a goal. I had no idea what the 6 major areas I was going to talk about. I had no idea of the 4 time frames that you have to have with the mission statement, 4 time frames for your goals. I had no idea how all that even worked. So decades ago, I put together this template for my troops. Once I read a lot of books and learned how to do it, I put together the template. And basically, what you have is a mission statement is going to declare who you want to be. And you're going to do it in the 6 areas of life. And in any order you want. Now the book they're in order, but in any order of importance to you, you can end up putting whatever order you want. But for me, it's my spiritual life, my family life, my physical, mental, social life. Now a long time ago it was my mental, physical life, but now it's my physical, mental. And then my social life, and then you've always got that 6th one, which is kind of like what I call the oddball. So let's go dramatic here. For corrections, it's reentry, trying to get back into society. For academia, for yourselves, it's probably going to be to do with your grades. For somebody with vocation, it's going to be, how do I work on having a better career, a better job? So you got the 5 consistent that you're going to see in there, then you're going to have the 6th one. Now you're going to have 4 time frames. We're going to ask you to do a 30-day short-term, easily attainable goal. Okay? That's what we talked about in basically lesson number 1, to pick your routine change. But a 30-day short-term goal, a 6-month midterm goal, and a 1-year long-term goal. And then you all need to, in my opinion, if you want to really understand how to go win this game called life, you have to have a thing called a BHAG. You ever heard the word BHAG before? If you haven't read it in our book, does anybody know what a BHAG is? A BHAG. A big, hairy, audacious goal. See, when you get the word TOPUCU in November 13, then you write the book in April of 14. And next thing you know, you've looked through all the reasons or hows or whys, but next thing you know, you're led into schools and corrections and you're doing all kinds of stuff. Little did I think at my age I was going to be out here on a Sunday afternoon doing this stuff. Little did I think I was going to be traveling as much as I'm traveling. But the point very simply is this, and it's just the same thing with your mentors here. It's the exact same thing. There's 4 areas that you need to understand when it comes to life. There's 4 basic principles, and if you can learn what the principles and the laws are, you have a chance to win. And we're all living by the 4th law. You all know what that is. I'll tell you in a second for sure. But you have the law of reciprocity, which means in life you always sow what you reap. It's impossible to sow and not reap, positive or negative. Then you have the law of use. The law of use basically says that you use it or lose it. You just use it or lose it. But then you have the law of persistence, which means that if you know what you're doing is right, if you know what you're doing is going to bear fruit, then you just persist until the job gets done, and then you go to law number 4, which they're all living by, which is the law of responsibility. It's the reason why I'm here, tell you why Jerry's here, Tom, and everybody else. It's because the law of responsibility says that when you've got yours, you have a responsibility to give back. Now, when you give back, you sow back into people, right? And by default, you've just gone from the law of responsibility back to the law of reciprocation, which means now you're sowing back in, and the whole thing just continues to go in a cycle. You guys are probably too young for that teaching, but the point is understand that what you sow, you reap. You use it or lose it. You just stay persistent until it gets done, and then when you get yours, help somebody else get theirs. Make sense? So if I'm understanding a big, hairy, audacious goal, for me back in the day was, I said to my wife Pat, I said, if there was ever any way we could have 1,000 or 5,000 people learn these principles, and even if only 5% of them use the principles like I learned to do it, we'd have somewhere between 50 and 250 lives that would be transformed and changed. Now it's into the 10,000s. We think it'll be hundreds of thousands this year, I think we're seeing. A big, hairy, audacious goal is something you need to have, understand, so it's going to take time to get there. Make sense? So what I want you to do is, I want you to take on pages 3. Let's go through the first 2 days. Let's just do right now just the first 2 days. So that means you're going to basically, on page 3, you're going to answer some questions. Page 4, answer some questions. Page 5, we're going to start doing some writing. On page 6, we're going to do more questions. And on page 7, we're going to do more writing. That would just give me an idea if you understand the principle of writing a mission statement. Fair enough? All right, so let's do that for the next 3.5 hours. If anybody has any questions, this is open dialogue. Say, I don't understand that, this doesn't make sense, why am I doing this, why am I doing that?
If anyone has a question, tell them to raise their hand. We'll walk around and help them out.
Any questions, let us know.
Oh, you don't?
All right, for the sake of time, we're gonna cut it. All I want to really know is you're getting the concept, you get the idea. So you think about other people, other characters, live, fiction, whatever. You think of Huey Gillespie, you think of Rich Cavano, you think of people like that. Who in the world is Huey Gillespie, Rich Cavano? Well, here's what I learned in high school. I learned that because I had a monster inferiority complex, I mean monster, the only way that I kind of, now today, you guys, I mean everybody's like a generation, but he keeps getting bigger, but yeah, I was pretty big and pretty tough back in high school. I'm not bragging, but I actually was. I belonged to a little group called the A somethings, and we thought we were pretty tough, but we did we had a lot of fun times. My point is this, but I only had a couple of close friends, and almost everybody I knew was pretty much, and it's going to sound horrible, scared of me, but it is what it is. And in my high school class, we had Rich Cavano. And I was like, man, everybody likes Rich. What's up with Rich, you know? And Jim, I'm going, man, everybody likes Rich Cavano. It's like, what's this guy do? And all I found out was he just kind of was a nice guy that cared of everybody. He just kind of like tried to memorize names of people, you know, and tried to just whatever. Now, I'm not trying to say I want to turn into a marshmallow. I'm just saying that, you know, my whole thing was it was a lot more fun to be kind of part of the group and accepted than to be this one person over here everybody was afraid of. But it, you know, so it makes sense. Then I found out, Huey Gillespie, I became a firefighter. And I found out from Huey, Huey's the one that really kind of taught me, you know, again, he piled on that issue, so he was, again, another guy, everybody in the city I was working in, you know, loved Huey. But he was also a guy that taught me the principle, one of the key guys taught me a lot of principles about the law of reciprocity, about, you know, sowing hard work and getting a good return, you know. And it was, you know, I think as I mentioned before, you know, there's a lot of things that happened in the course of my life that hard work just separated me from the flock. And a lot of times you're going to have people try and deceive you. They're going to try and tickle your ears and make you think it's going to be some easy thing, you know, whatever. In fact, it kind of reminds me of, we had, there were 7 of us back in the day that shared a paper route. You guys know what a paper route is? Yes. Do they still have them today? I don't know if they have them. So there were 7, we happened to be old boys, so there were 7 of us. They had this paper route because we decided it was going to be easier to work as a team. So we had basically 7 routes, and we would team up and we put the papers together. We'd all work as a big, huge group, and we'd go out there and we'd deliver the papers and stuff. And this is back in the 50s, so this is back what you all would call mid-century. You know, you had mid-century furniture. I grew up with that stuff. But anyhow, so we went out and we did our first group. We did our first week, and we collected our money. And believe it or not, we got $28, which today seems like a joke, but back then it wasn't too bad, you know. And so one of the guys, you know, Dad was this big dreamer. He always had all these ideas and never really worked hard, but he always had ideas and, you know, concepts and how to, you know, cut corners short and do this and make it quicker and, you know, scheme this. You all know somebody like that, right? And hopefully not your parents, but you all know somebody like that. And so we went to him and we said, if anybody's gonna be able to really figure out what's the best way to figure out how much each money all of us made this week back in the 50s, you know, doesn't seem like much, but we asked, you know, we asked this guy's dad, can you do the math and figure out how much we all should get? And the good news was he came back and he said, well, you each get $13. I was like, that's amazing. Because, you know, give it quick, easy, you know, just, you know, make it happen. You know, just divide that 28 by 7 and get $13 each. So even as little as I was at the time, I said to him, I said, you know, I'm a little confused right now. Can you do me a favor? Can you show me how your dad came up with that number? Because we need to figure out how to give everybody their money. So he said, well, it's easy. When you figure out an average, you use division, right? So he said, it's easy. You just take 7 and divide it into the 28. Now let me ask you guys this question. How many times does 7 go into 2? 0, okay, right? But 7 goes into 8 one time, and 7 from 28 is 21. 7 into 21 goes 3 times, so $13. I was like, that's amazing. This guy's learned how to not to work hard, to cut corners short, and how to trick the system. I thought, this is amazing. I said, but I also learned that in order to correct division, you use multiplication, right? So I said, that's pretty cool. So I said, okay, 21 times 7. So let's figure it out. How many times, what is 7 times 1? 7. What is 28, I'm sorry. No, 20, I screwed up, 13, my bad. So 7 guys getting 13. So 7 times 3 is 21, 7 times 1 is 7, 21 plus 7 is 28, right? 7 times 3, 21, 7 times 1 is 7, 21 plus 7, 28. So 28 here, 28 there, 28 here. Make sense?
No.
So then to really do the correction, he says, well, let's just, I said, you know what, let's just add 13 for 7 of us, right? So, everybody with me? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So, everybody gets 13 levels. My point very simply is obviously this. You're going to have people trying to deceive you and make you think you can cut corners. You cannot cut corners, folks. When you're learning the principles of life, when you're learning how to trick your brain to get you to do what you don't want to do, when you're putting it down in goals, and you're figuring out, you know, in order to grow and stretch, I need to think of somebody that's having more success than me. I need to find somebody that I would like to maybe emulate. Somebody, and I'm always doing that. When I got involved in the wealth management business, I found a lot of people that I was able to say, okay, if they do things like this, I'm going to do it like that because that's worked for them. Is it making sense? So as you're doing your mission statement and goals, always understand that every time you move forward in that, it's going to be something that you're going to have to do, constantly do, and stretch your brain and think of again, all kinds of areas where you want to excel. Make sure it's in writing so it can become reality. Okay? All right. We're going to go on to lesson number 3, which is you had to memorize 3 words in lesson number 3. If you got around to doing lesson number 3. Somebody said pain association transfer. What is a pain association transfer?
It's basically learning from your mistakes.
Yep, so comparing this existing pain with a future pain that would be a lot more severe than this existing pain. Now, for me, it's easy. is doing, so the other day we did Fight Gone Bad. That was the workout we did, the workout of the day was Fight Gone Bad. And it's basically true story between a CrossFit person and a professional boxer. And the professional boxers have in better shape than CrossFit people are. And so they said, well, we'll put together this one little thing, and we'll do 50 wall balls, and we'll do 50 pull-ups, and then we'll do 30 push press, and then we'll do 20 deadlifts, and then we'll do 10, I forget what it was, and then we'll do a 2,000 meter row. When we're all done, we'll see, and we'll go through that 3 times, by the way, and we'll see exactly who gets the best time. And when they got all done, the CrossFit person said to the boxer, said, what do you think about that? And he said, that was a Fight Gone Bad. So why do I do CrossFit? I do CrossFit because I associate not that 1 hour of pain 4 to 5 times a week. I associate, which I told you before about shooting hoops with my grandkids. I associate it with doing everything I can possibly do with this thing to make sure it stays healthy so that I don't have a heart attack or a stroke or whatever it is. You'll need to figure out in your lifetime what pain association transfers you're going to do. Now, I asked you this one last time. How many of you brush your teeth today? Thankfully, all you're raising your hands this time. Because why? Why bother brushing your teeth? Because there's a pain association transfer of having them and not having them, right? A lot of things you do in life, you just do like this because you just do it because you know that equals that. So here's the principle. The principle is this. You don't need to apply pain association transfer when you're doing something you like to do. Forget the principle. You won't even need to worry about it. Because if you like doing something and it's beneficial for you, you'll just do it. A pain association transfer is how you learn to trick your brain to do things you don't want to do here because I'm not going to do this, but now I am going to do that because I associate it with this. And I can't speak for any of you. I can speak for me. I was not going to be like my brothers. I was not going to be like my dad. I was not going to be like other relatives I had around me that I saw fail and end up in jail, and the list goes on. I accidentally stumbled across this principle back when I was younger. But I learned pretty quickly to do the things I didn't want to do to become what I wanted to become. And I'm not braggadocious here, I'm just telling you the principle that will work for me, you, or anybody else that applies it. But you need to be cognitively aware of what a PAT is, a pain association transfer, because when you find yourself not wanting to do things that you know are beneficial for you, you've got to lock in the pain association transfer, which is, I will do that because I associate my brain with this pain over here that is eventually a lot more challenging and difficult for me than this pain I'm taking here. Does that make sense? To 3 of you it does. That's awesome. Perfect. Thankfully for you, I have a bunch of grandkids around your age, so I know you're absorbing something, just not reacting, which is okay. I need the reaction. But you've got to lock in pain association transfer. You have to literally, you did it today again. You did the scales, because you came, right? You came here today, and you also did a pain association transfer. Maybe you did. Now, maybe if you were waiting to be here, and you love being here, it wasn't a pain association transfer. But for some of you, it might have been a pain association transfer. Or maybe for some of you, you had to find a way to get here, and you had to find whatever, or you did whatever to get here. And there was a pain association transfer of, I'm going to do this thing today that maybe I don't want to do because I'm associating it with, if I don't, I get kicked out of the program. That would be a pain association transfer, wouldn't it? There's all kinds of those things that you're going to learn to do if you learn to do what a pain association transfer is. It is absolutely one of the key things that champions do, that those that don't win the game, they have no idea how champions trick their brains to do what they don't want to do. So PAT, pain association transfer. Make sense?
Yes.
Anybody think of any pain association transfers you've done that you would like to step out of your comfort zone and share with us? Yep. Here's the microphone. As far as it goes.
A few of us are on the swim team, and recently we just went through winter training, and we swam 7,000 yards in the morning and 7,000 yards in the afternoon for 20 days. Something about that, yeah.
Nice, nice. That's a PAT. And that is. And that's also a what are you doing when nobody's watching? Did you guys see that Michael Phelps commercial during the Olympics last year, the year before? When he's in swimming and the lights go out and you still hear him swimming. That's getting yourself to do what other people don't do. And again, I know I'm beating it like really bad right now, but you got to understand that they're the champions, understand these principles, and they do the things they don't want to do. So if I said to you, this is going to be a horrible example, but if I said to you, you're all going to pass away next week, you're all going to, however he's going to pass away. And yet, that cannot happen if you go and you do 7,000 meters every day for 20 days or whatever. My point is very simple. If you associate it with something horrendous over here, you'll always do those things over here you don't want to do. The challenge is, and I'm going to make sure that you get this, because this is probably the most important tool that I'm going to teach you guys, the PAT. It is the one actually that totally separates, like I said earlier, those that do from those that don't. But if you don't understand that you've got to actually get your brain not to look at this. So let me ask you this question. Why'd you bother doing the 7,000? Because you want to make it the districts. So the pay association transfer was, I'll do the 7,000 or I won't make districts. So you didn't think about doing the 7,000. I don't think about rolling 2,000 meters when I'm doing 2,000. I'm thinking about being healthier, shooting hoops, or whatever else it is. I'm not thinking about the hard work I'm doing. I'm always thinking about something different. Am I making sense? Because if I don't make sense with this one, you're probably not going to succeed with TOPUCU. But if you trick your brain because you're thinking districts, then you'll do that hard work here. Got it? Anybody else, any PATs you've done? Other than brush your teeth and not lose them? All right. So, the takeaway from lesson number 3 is 3 words. Somebody, thank you, Pain Association Transfer. You can always think of my wife's name. Her name is Pat. PAT. Stands for passive aggressive tendencies. And not what I mean, it stands for my lovely wife. Just joking. Just joking. So, Pain Association Transfer. Everybody with me? Lesson number 4. Now, in review, lesson 1, you had to memorize the word. Lesson number 2, you had to memorize. There's 2 types of motivation. The only one you're concerned about is internal. Lesson number 2, we learned that there's 3 parts to the formula of motivation. They are so, didn't expect you to memorize it today. You've got to memorize hard work over here, odds of success, and payoff over here. And you can always control your odds by working harder. Don't listen to the newspaper guy. There are no shortcuts. There are no give-us-quick things. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Put in the hard work to increase your odds to get what you want to get. So you've got to memorize internal in the formula. Lesson number 3, you got to memorize 3 words, and they are Pain Association Transfer. Lesson number 4, I apologize. You have to memorize all 7 words. All 7 words of lesson number 4. Lesson number 4 I learned a long time ago, and it's called E to the 7th power. And basically it boils down to you control your brain at the entrance of a thought. You can't be in charge whether a thought enters your brain, because thoughts are going to enter your brain. Do I see TOPUCU? The only person that cheated is you. can't use your analogy of swimming because, you know, it's probably 25 meter, 50 meter pool, 25-yard pool. So just count, you know, you can't, it's kind of hard to cheat on that one, okay? I see people cheat at CrossFit all the time. I see them cheat all the time. I mean, literally, I'll be doing my burpees, I'm doing them faster than they're doing, and I'll still be doing it, they'll be done. I'm going, like, how could that possibly be? I'm getting down and up a lot quicker than they are. Well, one person cheats yourself. And they, here we go. Nice. Good job. Thank you. But they cheat themselves. So when it comes to the 7 E's, it really boils down to you've got to memorize all 7 of them. And the way we always talk about it is like this. A thought enters your brain. There's nothing you can do about a thought entering your brain. It's like a bird flying up behind you and landing on your head. It just happens. Don't let it happen. It could happen. Thought enters your brain. Step number 2. You entertain the thought. See, now, you're now going what I call down the slippery slope. Now, a negative thought enters my brain. Positive thought enters my brain. I'm going to nurture it and do all I can to make sure I keep working on the positive thought. That's part 2 of lesson number 4. But part 1 is about the negative side. So a thought enters my brain that is not good for me. Do I entertain it? That's the first step down the slippery slope. It enters, I entertain. Now I examine it. What would it be like if I cheated on that? What would it be like if I didn't go to this? What would it be like if I didn't do that? What would it be like if I did whatever? Then you start enjoying it. Now for me, this is always a challenge because I always get to the enjoying part with the ice cream. It's always like, man, I can't wait to go to Mitchell's tonight, you know, lady grandkids are going to eat ice cream. I will work harder tomorrow, that's what I promise you, but I will have a scoop of Mitchell's tonight. But I started enjoying it. So if the thought entertains, it's not good for me, then I make a decision. That's the first place I make a choice in my brain. The thought enters, do I entertain it? Do I examine it? Do I enjoy it? Now, if I take salt, steel, and water, and oxygen, and I have all 4 of those components in a vacuum, y'all know what a vacuum is, right? I have nothing. But in Northeast Ohio, not that much today, but it's called the Rust Belt for a reason. Because if you take steel with salt and water and oxygen, you put them together, you have rust, which is also corrosion. The first 4 E's take place in your brain. Technically, no damage is done yet. But as soon as you get to step number 5, you are? Okay. Step number 5, as soon as you get to step number 5, then you now experience what was previously a thought. Look at your notes. You experience what was previously a thought. You have put all the negative components together to corrode something. You now have moved into the disaster zone, so to speak. And if you're like a lot of people, then what you do is you start making excuses. Number 6, you start saying, well, you know what, generationally I had this, and and my sister this, and my brother that, my grandparents this, and that school did this to me. We did a study in one of the schools. Was it Bedford? Was it Bedford we did it? The Compass Group, right? There's a test, I forget what it's called now, we did. And it was amazing when we gave them the test and how everything was everybody else's fault. And these were kids that were 19 to 23, Tom, trying to graduate. They skipped a couple classes, now they're back at the Compass Academy, they're trying to graduate, etc. And I probably should have said the name of the school on tape, but it's okay. I know you did. So we did the test, we put them through the test, Lotus, put them through the test, and across the board, it was like 87%. It's because of the way I was raised, the way I was trained, society around me, this and that, and all this stuff. And it all could be true, actually. Could actually all be true. But that's the way they look at it, and that's why generationally I'm going to be this or that or whatever. They went through TOPUCU, finished it all, wrote their mission statement, wrote their goals, they learned the principles, We made them live it for a few months to actually learn, to actually apply the principles, use the pain association transfer, use the scales, use the 7Es, and actually use these little simple little tools that you can lock in your brain and memorize, can actually help you transform who you want to become. And we knocked that 88 down to the teens. Because it really started understanding, it really boils down to me. Doesn't matter what happens somewhere else. The only person that cheats is me if I don't figure out how to play this game. Again, I'm preaching to the choir because you're all here on a Sunday doing this. But if you memorize all 7 E's, and all of a sudden your brain starts going down the rabbit hole, you start thinking, well, you know, maybe I can get away with this, maybe I can get away with that, maybe I can whatever. And the thought enters there, take an exam, and you start enjoying it, you're still kind of okay. As soon as you experience it, you've added fuel to the fire. Because then what happens to most people in this world, and they start blaming somebody else, they start excusing themselves for what happens, and they become enveloped by it. And enveloped is the exact same word for envelope. In an envelope, you open it up, you put something in, and you seal it, right? Because this is the way it's supposed to be. Now again, good news for me, you guys are already working on that. But the 7 E's, you better memorize all 7 of them. Because otherwise, how can you analyze and diagnose where you are on the list of the 7 E's? You won't know where you are unless you know what they are. Make sense? And I apologize for not memorizing your name, but New York University, that's what they're finding out in the Bronx right now. That's what they're finding out. That's why we're moving into Queens and Manhattan and the rest of the areas out there through a company called Eckert Foundation, by the way, who's doing it through the Department of Community Development. It's because all of a sudden I've learned these thinking tools. I've got this toolbox now. The toolbox, like I said earlier, means nothing. Means nothing if you don't grab for the tool. If you don't use the tool. You can conceptually learn all this stuff. One of the things I was going to do with the board was go through a little list of what are the words that are applicable to successful people. I was going to have you give me all the words. You know, they're disciplined, they're hard workers, they're goal setters, they're this and that. Like I told you earlier, I already gave you the punchline on that one. It means nothing unless you turn that knowledge into a skill. TOPUCU will only work for you if you turn what these principles are into a skill where you're thinking about it. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, 7 E's. Cool, just memorize all 7 of them. Then figure out where you are in the scale. And you'll know if you have a problem or not. Make sense? All right, we're going to move back into the back of the book again. So, if you didn't finish up day number 2, please do that. Let's get to day number 3 and start working on that a little bit. See where we end up time-wise. I had another video to show, but I don't know if we need to show that video or not.
We got all the time you need.
Huh?
We got all the time you need.
It's just the same thing. It's just basically more kids saying it worse. So. I'll tell you what it is real quick. We had 5 gang members of the Boys and Girls Club in Cleveland. I'm talking the heart of Cleveland. And maybe I should show you the picture. And 3 of them are now in college. 1 of them has a full-time job, and 1 of them got back in trouble. Now, when we went into that program and taught them TOPUCU, how to make this thing control this thing, we were told there's absolutely no way. I've been told that almost everywhere we've been, because technically people don't understand that something this, I'm going to say it's simplistic, can actually work. Like I told you earlier, everybody wanted me to make it into a 200-page book. Didn't make any sense to me. Learn the principles, learn the tools, learn the techniques, and transform your life. So,
You got 25 minutes.
okay, that's short. Give a chance the rest of the brain. The only person you cheat is you.
there are certain principles, guys, that work. If you learn what the principles are, you can transform your life.
TOPUCU has really helped me, and I believe that it is a great program. I thought this is something that I should probably listen to.
You gotta have a picture of what you want before you forget it. I'm putting all the pieces together and I'm putting them the right way in this program. That's one of the right pieces. And it's a lot of pleasant love for me. I'm almost there.
When I would sit down and work on the different days and the different homework that we had to do, helped me think about where I wanted to be and what goals I wanted to set, so that helped a lot.
Forming good, better habits than the habits you had before, breaking the bad habits that you used to have.
It helped us grow as a group because it taught us how to listen to one another.
Routine somehow is a problem with following.
See, you would set a goal for yourself, then you had to find all the steps to achieve it, and you just learn a lot about how you can set goals and achieve them.
It's good making a change. That's helped a lot. Setting different goals and being able to form very different habits. It's helped a lot, and I'm happy I went through the program.
Because if you use these principles, they work. So what is TOPUCU? The collection of basically 7 principles that you're learning. It's 7 things that you can do to help you transform who you want to become.
It's a really great program, and it helps us with a lot of stuff that will help us later in life.
The program that teaches you good habits, teaches you life and wrong.
It did help me grow and get through 8th grade, especially with goals, setting up to get better grades.
To set some goals for family, that I was going to spend more time with them and spend more time with my homework to give more, just to get more out of it.
It helped me think about my goals and how to change it and how to better. I'm probably going to use all this during, even when I'm trying to get jobs and goals for that in college and in high school.
It helped me go forward by if I get in a situation, it just helped me stop and think.
Just the lessons, habits, goals, everything. It really helped me out.
Anything, you work harder, how success becomes greater.
Because it made me learn how to look at a different perspective.
You outwork people, you win the game. It's as simple as that.
Not everything's super easy. There's going to be a lot of challenging trial and tribulation in life, but that is worth it in the end.
It's the only person you see is yourself.
I figured out there are certain principles that work in life. And if you work those principles, you can change into who you want to become.
All right, so let's take almost all the rest of the time, maybe only 5 minutes at the end for some final Q&A, and you're going to do a benefits and concerns. So let's take 12 minutes, finish up day 2, go on to day 3, 4. If you can get through 5, that'd be awesome. That's probably asking a lot. My goal today was to make sure that you got the basic gist and concept of writing a mission statement. Next month we'll talk about goals more. Everybody hanging in there? Is it making sense? Is it making you think? Put stuff down and figure out what you want to do, who you want to be. Some of you could be like I had to do. I had to write down a lot of obstacles I was going to overcome. I wasn't letting the older brother get me in trouble, and the list goes on. So, All right, so we're going to do a quick review, then we're going to do the benefits and concerns, and we'll be out of here by 4 or earlier. Who's in favor of earlier? All right, good. All right, so I don't expect you to have them totally memorized, so you can cheat. You can use your cheat sheets or whatever you want to do. But again, you've all heard of KISS, not the group, but the acronym KISS, K-I-S-S, stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. But I like to say keep it straightforwardly simple. But keep it simple. And if you get the TOPUCU thing down, you're going to find out the more you do it, the better you'll get. And the better you get, the more you'll do it. And the more you do it, the better you get, the better you get, the more you do it, the more you get, the better you get, the better you get, the more you do it. You're going to find out that if you memorize these principles, you will start making maybe even better decisions than you already are. So, lesson number 1 taught you only need to know one word to transform who you want to become. The word is change your routine. Positive stuff, we don't just continue to nurture the positive stuff. TOPUCU is based on helping us overcome the negative stuff. So change the routine, change a bad habit. Just control the routine. The craving's not going to go away. The reward is not going to, the desire for that reward is not going to go away. Just control the routine. Just do something different in the routine to change and transform a bad habit. Lesson number 2, you learned about 2 types of motivation. One of the counts is, and there's 3 parts of the scales. They are hard work, success, and the payoff. You can always tip the scales in your favor by hard work. It's impossible to work harder and not have your odds go up. It's impossible. He or she who works the hardest will probably win the game. Lesson number 3 is my wife's name, Pat. Stands for nicely done, and that basically is not thinking about 7,000 meters, it's thinking about districts, okay? It's all, and it's really what it is. But you always grow when you're doing things that are difficult and challenging to your brain. You need to learn how to create cognitive dissonance. Y'all know what cognitive dissonance is? Cognitive dissonance is when your brain hurts because you're doing something new, like driving that hour somewhere. Make sense? So it becomes a tool when you learn to create it. So it'd be one thing to say, okay, I'm going to just do, another example, the workout of the day, and I'm going to do the 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, the meter row, and then do 3 rounds. That's one thing. But then to create in your brain more cognitive dissonance and say, last time I did, if I go on that, I did it, in 23 minutes, I'm going to do it in 22 minutes. Make sense? You create that. You create cognitive, you create ways to make you stretch and do things you don't want to do. Then the 7 E's are you got it? How many of you can read? 4 of you, great. So you can read, memorize the 7 E's. Make sense? Yeah. All right. Tools are only worth anything if you use them. Okay? Jerry's going to do the B and C, because we're always looking to analyze, because we always want to stretch and get better, right? So we need to know.
So do I need a mic? Can you hear my voice? Can you hear it?
Yes, please.
I'm going to be on the mic? Okay. So, first of all, thanks for being here today. We covered a lot. We normally don't have this much material in a session, but we're trying to get completed through here in 5 different days instead of usually it was like 12 or 14. So, but Tom told us that you guys were smarter than the other students that we have, so this should be good. We want you to, next time, there's not required homework, but I would suggest that you may want to go back, since we were a little bit rushed today, to refine the work you did today. Review what you did, and you may want to embellish it, improve on it for the next time. you read chapter 5. You saw how long the chapters were. You could probably read chapter 5 in about 5 minutes. So, and we will be covering it again in the next session next month. Also, if you have time and your schedule allows it, we were hoping to get through the finishers days 5 through 12 today. None of them are very long. If you have time to do that between now and the next time, I would suggest you do, but we will provide time to do that in the session next time. So if you want to get ahead, that would be a good thing. So each time we wrap one of these sessions up, we want to hear from you. What were the benefits, or what did you learn from the session today? Dennis is going to capture those, and I think for those of you that were here last time, try to headline your answer. We don't want an epistle. If you can say it in like 5 or 6 words, we'd appreciate you do that. That way we can capture your idea. We really do want to hear from you. And then we're going to cover the concerns you might have. You know, what you didn't like, that it's going to take too long. And, you know, I would rather be doing something else with my life than being here in this meeting. Whatever those things are, we really want to hear what they are, because it's going to cause us to possibly adapt our program to be more beneficial to you. So, without further ado, did anyone? What did you like about what we did today? Anybody? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Will this go all the way there?
Yeah, it will.
Look at that. There you go.
I found out who my inspiring celebrities are, because I really don't have anybody that inspires me. They're celebrities. I really just look up to my mom. But I thought about it, and I thought of Oprah, Tyler Perry, Ellen. So that was different for me, because I never really thought.
It made you think of that. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Anyone else benefit from today?
As a lot of us are very busy in our lives, especially with the program, I learned not to make sure to not cut it short. To always like push yourself, do the work, and then get the reward.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Don't cut it short.
Don't cut it short. Do the work. There's anybody else benefit? Okay, I'm not going to, oh, yes. You're going to really try to make me stretch my cord.
I really enjoy the pain association transfer. It's literally my life, so. I enjoy that.
You can relate. Pain association transfer. Okay, learning about that.
So when you're doing the hard work, to not think about the hard work, to think about the reward and the payoff.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. What concerns do you have? Are there any? You wish that Norm or I were younger, so do we. That can be put down there. So does my wife. Thank you, Tom. I thought he was my friend. Okay, well that's good if we don't have any concerns. Once again, thanks a lot for being here today. Every time we've done this with a group of students, there is transformation that occurs, but only if you apply yourself and go through it, like Norm said. Not only learn what the tools are, but take them out of the toolbox and apply them to your life. So thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thank you, Norm and Jerry and Dennis and Jim and everybody who's working so hard to put this on. So I've gone through a couple of crash courses on TOPUCU, but now that I'm sitting in on these sessions, I'm learning a lot, and I'm going to be 65 next month, so you can never not learn, and it's constant, it's continuous, and so I'm just telling you, I'm still pushing myself to learn at my age, and I've gone through most of the hard work in life, so, but it doesn't end. Keep going, keep doing what you're doing, stick with it. Don't, when you're thinking that a camp may not be, worth the trip, or, hey, maybe I can't juggle this with everything else I got. Make sure you apply some of these principles and go through before you pull the trigger and make make the decision. Not because it's my program and not because it's camp. It's because I can give you or show you 100 examples since this program has been in existence for 5 years of students that I think wish they had not made that decision. So go through it and talk to somebody, by the way. We provide liaisons, we provide operating committee members. We certainly have a lot of supports that you can go to. The testament is we have alumni here. They've gone through the decision-making process and the transfer, and I'm sure they could have been doing a lot of other things in the past couple of hours, and they're here. So I need Madison, Paige, Austin, Jordan, Amelia, and Jada. If you could see Mr. Tranga and or Mrs. Bruner before you leave, I'd appreciate that. That is concerning the engineer for a day program, and so if you would please see them. Also, my birthday's next month, but guess whose birthday it is tomorrow? Mrs. Bruner. So, how about on 3? Happy birthday. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Bruner. Happy birthday to you.
We had singing lessons to the TOPUCU. All right, so I want you to pack up all your books. Make sure you drop them in the, where is those,
They're over there on the side.
where are they? Over there. Also, Mrs. Bruner's got some cupcakes for you for her birthday. She had to buy her own cupcakes to give to you guys, but please take it. And thank you all for coming. Be safe going home.
I bought them.